Good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome to another live, fresh edition of Kiwanis Connects, rolling off the conveyor belt here at WWDB TV studios in the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada. That's right. We're here. You're there. We're all somewhere, I guess. Thank you for watching. Of course, joining me to my right in studio is a gentleman we had on about a month ago. Why is he here? I'll let Val talk about why we have our guests here. Governor Val is there. Frank Pizarro is here. We also have a guest who will be connecting. Ms. Reva Braun will be joining us momentarily. But thank you all for joining us, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, downloadable apps, WWDB TV for Android, WWDB TV LV for your iPhones, or in about 72 hours, you can download our show on the WWDB TV network, which is available on Roku. Not only watch us, good morning, Herman, but there is many, many plethoras of shows with which you can watch from here, our network. Governor Val, how are you this morning?
Yeah, many plethora. You got plethora in the first few minutes.
Absolutely. And he said plethora, and I said it. I just said it again. That's 4 in about 60 seconds. So you're looking sharp over there. What's going on there, Governor?
I love it. You know, the travel has just amped up. And so I've had the opportunity to drive up from San Diego to Monterey. And I got to tell you, am I in delay mode?
No, I just couldn't hear you. I'm still a little stuffied. I need him to turn the volume up so I can hear you better.
Your sign language was telling me, Val, disconnect.
No. Sorry. My bad.
We have 4 more weeks in this Kiwanis year, and there's so much stuff going on right now. It's really exciting. And this mode, sometimes we forget the real world. And that's why I wanted to do this show today, because I think a lot of clubs are busy during celebrations and they're doing installations. And we have something that I want to make sure we never forget. And so that's why I invited Frank and Reva onto the show. And if other people want to call in and share with us what their clubs are doing to honor and observe the 9/11 catastrophe, I want to do that. And I'm going to read the number. So you can call the number 3207. Aaron, what's that number?
702-992-3207, and that's important for everybody listening on the apps right now because you can't see the number. So we're giving it to you, 702-992-3207. I believe Reva is about to join us. However, we can't get the camera working, but we will hear her beautiful voice and the stories that she'd like to share. So with that, Reva Braun now joins us. Reva, how are you? Maybe not. Reva? All right, we'll check on the audio there in a moment. Frank Pizarro, we had him on a couple of weeks ago because he represents an organization, Firefighter Memorialtransport.org, right? I got it right there. I always want to throw that S in there. Eventually, I'll get it after 5 more years. But more importantly, I'm going to show something that is involving that later on, but just as important, Frank, very instrumental in the happenings of 9/11 all those many years ago, being there as a firefighter, and also here in Las Vegas over the years. He's been involved in many memorial ceremonies across the country, across the city, and across the country too.
Yeah, that's right.
You go back to New York. So we're going to hear firsthand some stories and things that we'll share some pictures of Frank in action, helping us to never forget. And I'm glad you said that, Val. And Frank, I want to also start the conversation with this. You know, that day, we were all stunned. It was like when the Challenger blew up January 28th that year. We all remember where we were. I know where I was. I know you guys probably know where you were. That day, the word normal was redefined. And I think as the years have progressed, we're closing in on 23 years now on Monday, right?
22.
22? I thought it was 11-9-1-1. Oh, 01. I'm thinking, okay, sorry. So minus 1 more year. We were all concerned about, as we got away, keep getting further away from the actual day, people do forget. And how close-knit we were at the beginning of rebuilding our patriotic feel and all that. But here we are 20 some odd years later. In my opinion, I don't think the country's feeling the same thing all year round, except for one day. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Who wants to start?
Good, Val.
Go ahead, Val.
Um, I I really believe that many people are forgetting, but there is a whole generation of kiddos that we have in college right now that were born during that time period that don't know enough and were not taught. So this generation needs to know, and they need to be reminded on a regular basis. And so I that's why I believe that we need to honor and acknowledge every single year, because if we forget, then it will happen again. And so my experiences aren't as involved as Frank's, but I know Frank, you have your story just resonated with me. That's why I wanted you to be here today. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that people have very short memories, and unless what we suffer from sometimes, we have to disconnect because it didn't directly affect them. This is a national thing. This wasn't a New York thing or a DC thing or a Pennsylvania thing. It was a national thing, and so I always try to remind people, and I try to do that through my foundation as well. Uh, to remind them that freedom isn't free, and that the rights and the freedoms that they do enjoy is because of the sacrifices that people make and have made, our veterans and our first responders, and we always have to keep it in the forefront.
Absolutely. You know, I can remember exactly where I was when we were here in Monterey. I had just gotten married year before. And we were just I look on the TV and I'm like, Andy, this is real. And we were both considered essential staff on our campus. And what rolled out from there was taking care of other people and our world coming together. And I think we need to keep reminding people of that. And I know Reva's in. Reva, what is your thought about? Aaron, can you rephrase the question? Because I'm not doing a good job. I'm a little emotional.
That's okay. I just want to make sure. Reva, can you hear us? Good morning. Now we lost our audio after we had it before, which is unfortunate. Reva, one other option, if you want to call us direct in the studio, 702-992-3207. Call us in the studio so that you can join our conversation. It's there on the screen if we can't get the audio fixed. So the question is, it's been 20 odd years, 22 years, 21 years, 2001, 2020, 22 years. Yeah, I'm a math degree. Do we still feel as patriotic today as we did when all this first happened? You know, and I think if we were, many of the problems in today's country, at least for the United States, I don't think they would be as bad as they are in a lot of ways.
I think what we need to learn how to do is use that same unified spirit that we have when a tragedy happens, and carry that throughout the year, every year. I mean, because it was amazing to.
Yep, right. Absolutely. You guys talked about where you were. I remember I had just gotten out of shower, got downstairs. My daughters were running around and turned the TV on, and I see the first plane hit. And I'm yelling up to my wife, who was still getting ready, coming out of the shower. And I said, babe, you're not going to believe what I just saw. And then within minutes, the second tower hit. My wife was on her way to her training, where after the towers came down, they got a call as essential personnel, like you were just talking about, Val. She had to turn around and go back up to school. She actually was stopped because she was rushing to get back to the school because she was going over the speed limit on these side roads to get back to the school. Police stopped her when she told her who and what she was. They reminded her to slow down, get to your school safely. And yeah, it's like the Challenger, man. I was at Penn State. I was having lunch at 11:30, whatever it was, a.m. How that happened. And we've had that sense of patriotism even with that. And like Frank said, patriotism gets heightened when certain events happen. Joining us on the telephone now, because for whatever the reason, we can't get the internet working for her to be connect. Reva Braun joins us. Reva, good morning. Reva.
Eva?
Oh, there you are. You're very faint. How are you this morning?
I know. Nothing is working for me this morning. This isn't a good thing. But so, Val, in answer to your question, I agree with your college thoughts, but go back because I'm an elementary person lately. Our elementary school children know nothing.
True.
And that's the targeted area.
They
because
absolutely.
I know it's not in our history books. It's not being talked about. So when you see an elementary child, they don't understand any of this. They don't understand. They have no recollection. The younger parents, the college parents, are now becoming young parents, and they forget. And to me, as you know, this day is near and dear to my heart. And how do you tell people that in the world that we live in today? How do you explain this to children? We're at a loss.
Is this something that should be in history books and taught to kids?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would you, Reva?
Absolutely. And I know Reva believes the same. And it's for me, what I believe is Kiwanis is that perfect opportunity to be able to get this message out and be able to honor it on a regular basis. One of the 6 objects of Kiwanis is patriotism.
I agree with you on that. But it's not only Kiwanis' job; it's the community's job. We have to remind our schools to think about this. We somehow need to put this day in a history book so people do not forget.
It needs to be. You know what the thing is? I work in an elementary school right now, and they teach math. We teach reading, writing, science. I'm in an art school, so they have time to go to different art programs within the school. But I don't see anything on anybody's schedule about history. Right? I mean, we used to have a class of history, right? That's how we learned about Independence Day and the Civil War and Lincoln being shot and World War I and II. I don't see history. Maybe it's under social studies, whenever they do that once a week. But teaching kids the history of our country, especially the ones that were not around when this happened and whatnot, I think it's important. Otherwise, it's going to get lost.
And that's what's happening. It's a wise man once said, right? If we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And what's happening is it's not being taught. So, unfortunately, little by little, it is being repeated.
Did I lose you totally again?
No, we have you, Reva.
Okay.
There's just a little delay with you on the phone.
And I'm not sure if I'm hearing anything. So, you know what? Let's go backwards.
All right.
We'll be backwards this morning.
Go ahead, Frank. Continue your thought.
And that's really the crust of it. Is that it's we're starting to see the evil head rise up again because we haven't learned anything, and sometimes what people try to do is keep us ignorant to what has happened, so that way it's like new. But it's really up to us who have lived through a lot of those things, and our families and our grandparents and our parents have lived through those things, to do, unfortunately, the job that the schools are supposed to be doing, and informing and educating the younger generations as to what has happened and the results of what has happened and how has it affected our country.
Well, and one of the things I realized in the curriculums that are out there, the curriculums are so outdated. And so people are learning about Mesopotamia and the Euphrates and those kind of things, but they're not learning about what is recent history.
Right.
They're not learning about what is our true history. I'm talking from forward. There are very few kids that even know who Mae Jemison is. And she is one of those amazing astronauts, the first African-American female astronaut. No one knows who she is because that's so recent. And you think about what we're doing now, they don't know about the Challenger. They don't know really what's going on. So they don't have the background to understand what's happening in the Ukraine. And they surely don't remember. I'm not sure anybody could tell you what bin Laden was caught and killed.
Totally agree.
Yeah, if I said
agree with
3
that.
and 10, yeah. And I think that's the history that the kids need to know.
What I want to do at this point is let's step aside for our first break. We're still working on Reva's connection here. Reva tried, I don't know, I hope Reva can hear me, but it looks like she's trying to connect via the video link. That's fine, but she can't be on the phone at the same time. Otherwise, we'll get terrible. Oh, you did? Okay. So hopefully during the break, we'll figure this out. But in the meantime, you are watching Kiwanis Connects. Today, we're talking about 9/11 memories, thoughts on history. That's video. Yes, let's play that on the way out. So we're going to step aside. We got a video showing Frank in action and what he does to help us never forget about 9/11 and a commercial. And then we'll be back after that. Take it away, John.
Precinct. Oh.
Actually, the 20th year is more powerful to me than, every year it gets more and more powerful. 20 years to see that people are remembering, and the loss is more powerful every day.
For all of us, the memories of that horrific day are burned into our brains and minds. Ghastly visions never to be forgotten, of loss so enormous as to be truly incredulous. Today, those images remain so unwaveringly raw.
Aloha. I am so glad to be able to invite you to Kiwanis Connects on WWD-TV because we have some fascinating shows going on. And so join us on Fridays at 9 a.m. And if you can't join us then, look at all the different links of where you can find us to see the different amazing shows that I do with Aaron and all the crew at WWD-TV.com.
Thank you, Governor Val, for that great message. Good morning, everybody. I'm Aaron Phillips, co-host of Kiwanis Connects with Governor Val, and this message is for all of you great lieutenant governors here in the Cal Neva District. As a reminder, we created a Kiwanis commercial that is dedicated to the clubs here in the Cal Neva District. You've seen it talked about, you've seen it on the show, and on the heels of a recent episode where we talked about branding, a commercial we think is a pretty good tool for you all to have. Now, I want to remind everybody, and there are two options that you can take advantage of. Number one, you could take the existing commercial and simply brand it with your club's information at the end of the message. That's $75 to make that edit. Real simple, and contributions do go to Governor Val Direct to maintain the popular Kiwanis Connect show. Now, if you'd like something a little more detailed and customized with your club specific and pictures and everything that's going on, well, we can do that too. There's three options there. For a 30-second commercial, it's $200. 60-second commercial is $250. And if you'd like 90 seconds to deliver the message, that's only $300. All the work is done here at Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Studios with your support. And reach out to me and I can give you all that information. Email me at KiwanisConnectsInfo@gmail.com. That's KiwanisConnectsInfo@gmail.com. Continued success for the rest of this administrative year and the future for your clubs, and I look forward to seeing you all at the District Convention in August. Thank you, Lieutenant Governors. We appreciate your time and effort. All righty then. Welcome back to Kiwanis Connects. I'm Aaron Phillips. Guest today is Mr. Frank Pizarro. Of course, Governor Val there, and I think we have guest Reva Braun back on the telephone lines. Reva, are you there?
I am.
All right. Very good. Now, I just want to remind everybody as they're watching, we apologize for some of the technical difficulties of delays because we got video, we got people on the phone. So please bear with us. We're going to make this thing work as we continue to go, and we thank you for your patience. All right.
AI is taking over.
Maybe we need an AI board op. I don't know. Anyway, maybe we need an AI host. That might be better too. Who knows? Anyway, so today's show, for those of you just joining us, today we're talking about 9/11. This upcoming Monday is another year where we get to, I'll say, honor those lives that were lost between all the events of that day. Frank was involved in that, was down there as a firefighter in New York, and he's sharing his stories. Governor Val is sharing some thoughts. Reva's on the line with us to share her thoughts. So, Governor Val, I'm going to ship it to you to take it away.
You know, when we left her break, one of the things we were talking about is that the curriculum for schools is not set up to teach these kind of things. And so, Frank, I know that you were sharing that we're now taking on that role, and that's what we need to be doing. And so, when I saw you in that clip, and it's like, this is even more important to you now, it really resonated with me. And so what are some of the things that you think we can be doing in our schools and with our kiddos so that they don't ever forget?
Well, especially during this time of year, there should be videos to watch. There's really good documentaries. I'm actually in one of those. But those are things that should be shown. You know, there should be, like, for example, on Monday, they should probably have everybody in the auditorium.
There's no school Monday.
Oh, there's no school Monday?
It just so happens, because I was thinking about it, it just so happens it's an in-service day for teachers, meaning the teachers have to report for trainings and stuff, but students are not in school on Monday. So that doesn't mean they can't do it on Tuesday. That doesn't mean they can't do it today. But as you were talking about that, I'm sitting here thinking, wait, kids aren't in school on Monday, this year at least, and it's a missed opportunity. But
yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject. But
well, either that or it should have been done today.
Yeah.
They should have sat down and got to watch some of that stuff, you know. And I'm not a big fan of sheltering children when it comes to those kind of things, because I think there needs to be truth, and I think that's what the country is lacking right now, is truth. And so what we need to do is show them the truth, explain it to them, you know, be there for them for the questions, because, you know, they're at the age right now where they're kind of forming the way they think. And the only way to do that is with truth, you know, and not the fabricated truth or whatever truth works out for us, but the actual.
Reba, your thoughts.
And it really plays back to in the 50s and 60s. Oh, sorry.
No, that's what I wanted Reba to chime in on this, on that thought before we move forward. Reba?
So my thoughts are very clear. We need to rewrite our history books. We need to not only include this day, but Vietnam and everything else that happened since Vietnam. Our young children just don't understand history. They're taught prior to and nothing else. And this is an important part of our history. If you go through the airport now, it's totally different than when I was a child. If you go into certain areas, it's different, and children don't understand why. Young adults don't remember why. This has to be put in history books of what happened. And to me, it's very clear. The same thing with Vietnam. People don't understand why some of our vets are so angry, why they are homeless, why they don't want to do with society. And we don't teach them anything. We don't explain to them. So I think history books need to be rewritten and include many important factors in my life, in our life, our generation, that our young children are just not being taught.
Go ahead, Val.
I totally resonate with you, Reva, on that. And I believe that that's where we need to step in. We have and access to teach, able to start getting that messaging out. We also need to think about who's writing the books. Right now, very few textbooks are being written by people that have experienced this. You know, it's like I look at you, Frank, and I go, that's a lot of work on your shoulders, but have you ever thought about writing chapters that can be put out in history books?
I'd be honored to do so. Because like I said earlier, I'm a big stickler for the truth. So, I mean, the truth is not always pretty, and it's not always something
I think what we need to do.
But it's
I think what we need to do is connect you up with our buddy in Noah's Ark Publications. He does a lot of children's books. And so that would be Laval Bell. He was a guest of ours early on. And I think putting out a history book series for kids that tell these kind of stories would be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So Laval, if you're out there watching today, or because I know you want later on Roku, we need to start publishing this book.
I just put his name in the chat room comments, so he got tagged in this. So hopefully it'll be easier for him to pick up the conversation. And the great thing about having Frank be involved in a project like that is he was there. You know, this would be like Neil Armstrong writing a book about stepping on the moon, you know, flying to the moon, you know. So Frank can give a perspective along with the many thousands of first responders and the citizens that were there to help. But it would be different if I were to write it. I have a very different perspective as someone who watched it on TV, but you were there,
Sure.
and can write it. And that is a perspective that very few can share to teach our generations to come as part of this as history. So I think that would be a great idea. Or we get it into VOOC.
Want to go down?
Go ahead, Reva, go ahead.
So I think I need to explain something. I am married to a New York City retired cop. He was there. That was his duty for a year and a half.
There you go.
And we were at the scene. We had to go down. So the memories are very clear in my family's head of what went on that day. Not only that day, but the lives after. And how it affected some of our students, because I taught in New York. And many of our students lost families. And Dal asked me a few days ago, what can our clubs do? My first thought, Valerie, is take a first responder out to breakfast that morning and thank him along with some of our vets. Because without our first responders and our veterans and our active military, we would not have survived that day. We would not have survived the months to come. And they need to be thanked every day of the year for their service to their community and to the country. We just need to sit and talk about what our thoughts are, where we were, what our thoughts were then, and what are our thoughts today? Do we remember anything? Do we still honor? Do we still think, you know, being the New Yorker that I am, I have students who lost parents that day, and on this day I call them and say, how are you doing? And they're grown up now, but they still lost a parent and grew up without a relative that was near and dear to them. So we need to remind ourselves that there are children in this world or and around here that grew up without parents because of that incident. We need to think about parents who lost children in that incident. It's just not a day that the world blew up. It's people actually lost loved ones, and we need to remember that.
Makes perfect sense. And we think of all the memorials, you know, the memorial with all the names in New York at Ground Zero that was created with everybody that was affected. But I think one thing, Reva, and we're all talking about it, is we need to figure out a way to never forget on a daily basis. And I think that's what's happening. I think that's our topic of conversation, is that I look at things differently now, but I try not to forget. And I'm not perfect at it. You know, should I do this? Should I do that? Most of the time I remember what happened, especially when I like was talked about going through an airport now. You know, you have the TSA pre-check, you want to make it easier, you know, you got to strip down to your shoes, and normal life had changed. And when we try to do something that was different back then before the incident, and we can't do that now, that should be the reminder where we are because of that incident, and support each other. It's like I say at the end of every show, right? My sign-off line, be kind to everybody. Why? Because we're all we got. And if we're not kind to each other, we ain't got nothing. So whether it's thanking a Vietnam vet, thanking a first responder, whatever it is, remembering those 3,000 plus lives that were lost that day. I mean, what does it take? 5 seconds to remember, to honor somebody in your mind that you lost? But that's just my soapbox and probably my cold meds kicking in as I say that stuff. Anyway. So,
Aaron, something very important, and having Frank here, he can probably testify that. Please make sure that our first responders always have the proper equipment to face any disaster. Because when they did 9/11, Those first responders did not have the proper equipment. They did not have breathing equipment. Their cell phones weren't working. They had no communication at times. And that was totally disastrous to those involved. So we need to make sure that every one of our first responders have the proper equipment for any disaster that we can think of.
My brain's going 8 million miles an hour on how to be able to support our first responders around the country and around the world. And so, Reva, when you talk about proper equipment and those things, in small towns like mine, we're all volunteer firefighters. So, this afternoon, what I'm going to do is actually call the captain and say, hey, are there things on your wish list that are not being supplied? Because I think by this time next year, hopefully we can fulfill some of those wish list items. Frank, are there other ways that we can do this?
Well, one of the biggest issues we had during 9/11 was radio communication. And they found those radios to be faulty back in 93 when the World Trade Center got bombed the first time. So, and they continued to use those same radios. So there was a time when the firefighters were ordered to come out of the building and they couldn't hear that. So, that's a big thing. Being able to communicate with the command is very, very important. What I think is also important is the support structure that we as citizens and as spouses, etc., for the first responders and the veterans, is that they're the most important line of defense. There's a lot of mental trauma and things that have happened since 9/11, and we tend to not act the greatest because there's stuff that goes through our heads that we don't realize we're doing. And so it's always good. I'm fortunate to have that kind of support at home. So everybody doesn't have that. And so it's nice to say thank you for your service, but that's just skimming the top. The little things that I also served in Iraq the first time we went, and little things like we talk about how things change in the airport. It's something that might be small to a lot of people, but it's like when they say all active duty in uniform with current ID can board at any time, and there's a bunch of us that are sitting there saying, well, we already served and we already suffered damage from those things. How is our service, for those of us who actually served in battle, less valuable than those who are currently on, who have yet to see any conflict? So it's those kind of things that
big imbalance.
There's a big imbalance. There's a disconnect, and like I said, things affect people as it affects them directly. And there was a time during the first 6 months after 9/11 that if you were a cop or a fireman and you went out to dinner and somebody saw you, there was no way you were going to pay for a meal. I would go to pay the meal and they say, well, it's already been taken care of. 6 months after that, we were already getting the finger because we were making too much noise with the sirens going down the street. So these are the kind of things, and then you have people in different parts of the country who tend to either protect themselves or just don't want to be involved, who say, well, that was a New York thing and that happened there. It's like the shooting that happened here on October 1st. It would be really easy to say, well, it's too bad for Nevada, but it's not. These are things that are happening around the country, and the memories and the recollections are very, involvement specific, or what what affects them. And so we say never forget, but it has to be something that there has to be more awareness to it. It's not just, well, it's 9/11 time, we feel sorry, we do some events, we satisfy our need to honor, and then we go on and we make out like, okay, well, next year we'll do this again.
Almost like a holiday.
It's a holiday, yeah.
The way holidays
like a holiday,
treated.
and people have problems with that too. They say we're having a celebration for now. It's not. We're honoring. It's a solemn time.
It's a memorial.
It's a memorial. It's something that, and we talk about the history books, right? I went to school and I learned about Washington, and we got all the way up to the Declaration of Independence, and we got to stuff like that. But, what happened to Martin Luther King and Kennedy and Malcolm X and all this and the shuttle and 9/11 and all the things that happen now. And I mean, we don't even go further back. Like we'll go into the what built this country. But what about the sacrifices of the people that were shipped here from Africa, who actually had a big part of building this country? But we don't want to talk about that, because what we have a problem in this country is we don't have shame, we have pride. And so what happens is we're too proud to say that we did something wrong and that we shouldn't have done that way, or that we continue to treat people that way. I come from New York, and it's I didn't have to deal with that. I come from a big city where everybody's together and everybody's doing everything together. And most big cities are like that, because you have to deal with everybody. But then when you get outside of those big cities, it's almost like a disconnect of you shouldn't see a Black or Hispanic or a person of color, Asian or otherwise, and be wowed by, oh my God, that person is different. Why is being different an issue? Why is that a thing? And so these are the kind of things that I think that we're doing ourselves a big disservice, and we try to ignore the 800-pound elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just ignoring the issue doesn't make the issue go away.
Right.
And then you have people who and then we get into I can ramble, so I'm sorry.
I know, that's all right.
We get into the us and them, and I think we need to go back to and it's unfortunate that maybe there needs to be another tragedy for us to say, you know what, let's put all that stuff aside and let's say we're going to be a we again.
Yeah. We the people, right?
We the people.
Not you the people.
I rather, I'm the kind of person, I was raised in a generation where you manned up and you said, well, maybe I was wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't have to win this one.
Right.
Maybe you're winning this one because yours is a better solution. So I don't have to win. I just have to make sure that everybody's good. And until we all get into the mentality that everybody needs to be okay, and it's not just about what's good for me, because I can't ignore that you have bad behavior because what you do for me benefits me if it's hurting the next guy. So I want to just bring up the comment that was just put in. It looks like from one of our administrators who helps manage our Facebook page. It says, my thoughts. I was alive and watching from California. I remember where I was and what I was doing. For those who know where they were when JFK was shot, that's another situation that is similar. They won't forget that day either. We should remember with all due respect, and for all those who were affected, thank you for doing the show today. Never forget. The little things. There's a national company, Subway shot, not Subway, but if you switch house fire around, you know who I'm talking about. Proceeds of what they do go to the firefighters for equipment and all of that. When I was back east in the middle of July, one of the New York fire stations downtown by Times Square, they were out front selling shirts to raise money for the house. Mm-hmm. Guess what? I came home with two, because then that Sunday I went down the shore and the Ocean County Fire Department was raising money for them as well. So it doesn't sound like much. They were $20 shirts, but if that $20 goes into a pile to help for better communication equipment, great. That's what we need to do. I'm going to step aside for our last break. We'll get Reva's thoughts on all of this, find out where these two guys, Reva and Frank, were in New York. They could have been neighbors for all we know. I was over on the other side of the water, so I don't know where New York is. But anyway, thank you for watching a very special Kiwanis Connects. We got Travel with Val coming up, bad dad jokes. We're going to wrap up 9/11, some more stuff. We'll be right back. International is a global community of clubs, members and partners dedicated to improving the lives of children, one community at a time. Today, we stand with more than 550,000 members, from K-Kids to Key Club to Kiwanis, for all ages in over 80 countries around the world.
Each community has different needs, and Kiwanis empowers members to pursue creative ways to serve the needs of children, such as fighting hunger, improving literacy, and offering guidance. Kiwanis clubs host nearly 150,000 service projects each year. For more information, visit www.kiwanis.org. Hi there, I'm Darth Vader. I am not your father. Anyway, welcome back to Kiwanis Connects. Aaron Phillips, Frank Pizarro, Reva Braun on the phone with us. Of course, Governor Val there, up there, smiling as always on the day that we're having the con. By the way, love that picture behind you, Val. Talk about what that is behind you there.
Well, one of my friends, Ed Cisneros, does a lot of 9/11 first responder bring home, his main project. And for 9/11, he had, in the celebration for the 20th year, he had a number of artists do some commissions of different art and as a fundraiser. And so I won this one. I don't think I legitimately won. I think Ed just really wanted me to have it. Don't tell anybody. But I have it up in our shared office every day. And so when I come into my office, I look at that. And so I never forget. I remember, and first responders and our patriots are at the top of my list.
Can you just grab that, bring that a little closer to the camera? While you do that, Val, if you can, just bring that. I want to mention that the Kiwanis Club of Burbank on October 15th is having a family fun day and golf ball drop, not a cough drop. No. Golf ball drop. There's a closer picture. I love that picture, the American flag, the eagle, and of course, the picture of the firefighter. You got an Army person saluting. That's a great picture. This is on October 15th. This is for their foundation. They raise funds for, of course, scholarships, Key Club, art, music, Burbank singing, scholarship programs. You can help by either adopting golf balls, place a program ad, bring friends to the event, or, of course, a cash donation. This is October 15th, the Kiwanis Club of Burbank. You can call area code 818-324-9044 or 818-430-7499. There's a copy of the letter there. This is on behalf of co-chairs Ron and Eddie out there. So October 15th, you got ads you can place. How do you adopt a ball?
I was going to ask you about it.
Do they put your stamp on the ball? I don't know.
Well, there's a number, and so your ball has a number on it, and the one that gets closest to the hole or in the hole wins a big prize. And the first time round, they had the one that was the furthest away also won a prize.
I could have competed in that one pretty easy. Dropped it, right? Just blow it off the tee and we'd win, right? Anyway, so give them a call for any information to participate. Again, that is 818-324-9044, Kiwanis Club of Burbank. Thank you very much for sending that in, sharing that with everybody. All right, Val, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
So as I'm looking at everything that we're doing, I want to recognize that there are clubs in New York that are actually doing pancake feeds for first responders. And so in different towns, they are breaking out all the griddles and inviting everybody to come and join in on a free breakfast and to honor our first responders. Because as Reva had shared earlier, if it hadn't been for the first responders actually running towards crisis, it would have been so much worse. And so I think that's something we can do across the country and around the world is honor our first responders, thank them for what they do as a very first step. And we need to put into place ways that we do this every day. It's our patriotism patch. It's a way that clubs can be awarded points for actually doing patriotic things. But it's not just for military service. It is for our first responders. And it is also one of the patch rockers that's on there can be earned by honoring 9/11 and 9/11 responders. And so I put that in, and I hope that's part of my legacy, that as Kiwanians, we never forget what teach.
Reva, what kind of events do you have going on that you can share with us for 9/11?
So our local Rotary Club does an event every year. It's a memorial. People just get together and talk about their thoughts of where they were, what happened, and their feelings today. And this year I'm getting brave enough that I'm going to speak on behalf of all the fallen heroes that day, and how we need to remember what happened and honor them. And not only honor them, but honor their families, because as the wife of a police officer, life was not easy when he was on the force. And we need to recognize that the families of those officers and first responders suffered as much as they did. It's a tough life being married to a first responder.
Absolutely. It's funny as you said that. I don't know if you can see, Frank just turned to his left because his beautiful bride is off camera here to our left, and he looked right. And I didn't want to turn around and see what her reaction was, but I saw him turn, and I'm sure it was one of mutual, like, damn, she's right, guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of interesting that I saw that. We do need to do something.
We think about our first responders and our military, but we very rarely think of those they left behind when they went out. Children, mothers, wives. It's not an easy life because you never know when that call is going to come and if they're going to come back from that call. When Kenny was first called in as a first responder to 9/11, had no idea what he was walking into, no idea what his health would be like 10 years later, and if he would still even be alive. And it's a tough life. It's something that, they want to do, and parents and wives have to be tough enough to take the consequences on that.
And it's a decision by first responders and military personnel to do that, to take that risk, to provide a better life for those left behind. And what's the old saying? And if I get it wrong, please correct me. Freedom's not free. There is a cost, right? Mm-hmm. And you're right, Reva. Thinking about, will your spouse come home that night when he's running into the fire or the danger or, a robbery or whatever the situation is to support? Frank was military and firefighter, military. How long were you in the military?
I did 1, 2, or 4 years.
4 years. And then firefighter for how long?
22.
So that's 26 years that Frank put his life in a position where his family was rolling the dice that, hey, they would at least see him or hear from him at the end of a workday. I can't imagine that, because sometimes I worry about driving my house to work and getting there safely and getting home because of all the craziness on the road nowadays. So, that takes something special, in my opinion. So anyway, that's real quickly on a lighter note. Reva, what part of New York were you from?
Actually, I was born in the city. So was Kenny. We both he came from the Bronx, I came from Upper Manhattan. But when this happened, we lived in Rockland, which is about an hour away from the site itself.
Okay.
So, yeah, but we were both born within the city limits.
And what part of New York were you?
I lived on the Upper East Side.
Upper East Side. I was just wondering if they were neighbors. That's really your.
So where on the Upper East Side?
What's that?
I was
sorry.
Between Park and Lexington up there hundreds.
Okay. Because I lived in Dyckman Street. Not too
Dyckman, you were up in Inwood, up that way.
Up in Inwood. I'm an Inwood girl.
There you see? Small world, ladies and gentlemen. Small world.
And Frank, thank you for your service from the bottom of my heart. I do appreciate everything.
Absolutely.
You guys too.
Chief is in the house. Thomas Glenn, my co-host on Thoughts Count Anywhere, also Navy man. You should see what it's like in this studio on Saturdays between him and John as a Marine. My goodness gracious, I got to head for the hills. Anyway, so we are safe in this studio. I got a firefighter, military. I got military over there. It's crazy. Anyway, listen, this is an emotional show on a lot of fronts. And if anybody watching this live or later on to go back and watch it, I think the thing that we need to do is figure out a way in our own lives what we can do on a regular basis to honor and remember and never forget. I mean, that's just a simple thought. Val?
Well, I think Douglas put a really interesting quote in the chat, and he says, as a past first responder, I think that's what he was meant, and a volunteer firefighter. We experience all kinds of things. Because I was actually a volunteer firefighter and in Stony Brook on Long Island.
Oh,
And so I have all my training, and I've posted a picture on Kiwanis Connect of my training times. But you always are always thinking about the other people and who you can help. You don't think about your own life, and sometimes you don't think about your own family, because you can imagine what would happen if you didn't help others. And so I look at you, Frank, and I'm so glad we're going to be a part of the same club, because I think what we will be able to do with your experiences and foundation and Aaron's ability and John's ability, we're going to make sure that our kids never forget. And so,
what club is he a member of? Let's get on the note there. You tried to slide that under there. What club is Frank officially a member of?
that he wants to be a part of our downtown Las Vegas club. And so my hope is Sunday we will make that happen. So absolutely.
Just remember who the referral Kiwanis.
I think that
all right.
I kudos into my line in the Kiwanis world. So thank you.
That was for you, by the way, not for me. I got thanked enough with a hug every once in a while. Anyway, listen, we got about 8 minutes left. I want to give Reva. Oh, wait a minute. Chief, 27 years and proud of it. Would do it again in a heartbeat. You assume the watch work day to day and retire. Then the youngsters assume the watch. It carries on, my friends. That's Chief, as we lovingly know him, Thomas Glenn. Proud friend of mine, and great thoughts in there. You're just passing the baton of service. All right. I want to give Reva a chance to have some final thoughts before we say goodbye to her, and then we'll move on to Val on the road, dad jokes, and a goodbye for the day. So, Reva, will give you final thoughts on this.
I think we need to teach our young children to respect the man in blue and honor them. And when they're doing a fundraiser, please give from the bottom of your heart, because it's important. And always thank either a first responder or a vet. We need to recognize the sacrifices they do. And our young children are not being taught that. For some reason, the world has turned around, and we need to go back to basics and respect and honor.
Right on. Thank you, Reva, so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us today on sharing those thoughts. Monday will be an emotional day for a lot of people around the country, and we thank you for taking time with us today.
Thank you. What are you doing? Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you, Reva.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Real quickly, before we go to Val on the road, I want to give a quick plug on the nonprofit.
All right. So when I moved out here to Las Vegas, I started a foundation called Firefighter Memorial Transport. And what we do is we carry the remains of fallen heroes, whether it be veterans or first responders, in procession. We have specialty vehicles. We have a fire truck, all beautifully gold leafed and prepared to carry firemen. We have a Humvee that we are working on now to carry veterans.
And we have a picture of that I'll show in a moment.
And we have a police vehicle on the way and a command center. And what we do is we raise the funds to honor those who have fallen, no matter where they come from. We also give scholarships to their children. We provide clothing and food and those kind of things for the community and support. We have contacts with mental health professionals, and we provide all of those services, and we team up with different organizations to make sure that happens. Right now, we're looking to raise funds to build our facility and to house our vehicles and to be able to do events for the fallen and their families. And every dollar helps. They can go to firefightermemorialtransport.org, hit the donate button. No amount is too big or too small. And right now our goal is $1 million. We're on our way.
Wait, let me write a check. Hold on a second.
Right, see that? If we need somebody to just write a check, this will help with the facility. It'll help to give out the scholarships and help the community. So once again, it's firefightermemorialtransport.org. Just hit the donate button. And no amount is too big or too small, and become part of the team.
At DECON, I took 250 flyers up with me on behalf of Firefighter Memorial Transport. And when I left, all 250 were gone. That means 250 people right now have a flyer about this organization in their hand and can do exactly what he asked to do and get involved and make a donation. What I do to give back hand in hand is I love working with this man to support his organization to the best of my ability, because I love this man. I respect him for what he's done for the country, but as the person that he is. And that's what I'm doing to give back to a man who was there at 9/11. All right, with that, you know what time it is.
Uh-oh.
Favorite soundbite coming up, Val. Here you go. All right, Val, take it
Oh
away.
my goodness. I always love that part. You know, I've got about 3,000 miles worth of driving to do this week, and a little bit more than that in flying, because right after the show, I'm headed to the Central Valley to support a number of our clubs and organizations. And we are actually doing some things for first responders in the Central Valley. So we're doing a kickoff tonight, and then tomorrow back to San Jose to install one of my favorite Kiwanians as a president. So not you, Aaron, but Kathy Tran and the Young Professionals Club that focus in on kids and youth support services in San Jose. Then I'm coming to Vegas on Sunday.
That's for last.
So all of you who are watching, I really want you to show up and be a part of our club opening and our governor visit, because I think Sunday's going to be that magic day. We need to make it happen. And beyond that, next week, I'm in Yucca Valley, Indio, San Diego, and back up to Turlock and Greenfield. And I'll end up on Friday, hopefully somewhere where I have connectivity.
That's always the gamble. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. When you took your term over October 1st, did Andy, I'm sure he did, or I would hope he did you happen to jot down what the number of miles on the car was October 1st? So that come September 30th, whatever the last number is, and you guys can actually figure out how much driving miles you put on your car?
That's too scary.
Actually, on the first car we did, and now on the second, yeah.
So
we have made note of all of that, and so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I actually lost one to Subaru.
Oh no. We got about a minute and a half left, so real quickly, I want to thank Reva Braun for joining us. Of course, the man to my right, who I love absolutely dearly and proud to call a friend, Mr. Frank Pizarro. Actually, I love his wife more, but she's off camera. She won't let me put her on camera. So anyway, but she's laughing. That's a good thing. But you know what time it is, Val? It's time for me to send you off with a smile and laughter. Why? Because it's time for some bad dad jokes. That's right.
No!
I know. John is like, no, he wants to cut my mic off, but because Val loves these so much, she's going to hear it anyway. All right, here's number one. You ready? What do you call a bear with no teeth? What do you call a bear with no teeth?
Skinny.
A gummy bear. Anyway. By the way, did you see Chief's last message to you there, Mr. John?
Yeah, it's on.
What's up, Jarhead? He said. All right, number two.
I don't talk to squids.
What?
Easy.
Why do ghosts ride elevators? Because it lifts their spirits. Oh, I even got laughter from Frank's wife over here. She liked the second one, though.
She tried to.
Yeah. Well, both Valeries are going to love this last one. Man. Val, this last one is in honor of our club, like Literacy Club, and all the clubs that get involved with books for kids. What's the best way to catch a school of fish? You catch them with bookworms. Come on now, that was set up for you by talking literacy. Come on now. Oh, I'm getting booed over here. But look, she's falling off her chair. All right, that's it. Read the screen. Let me see. John, turn the mic. Listen, Steve. Makes Governor Val laugh like this and brings a smile to her day, then it's worth every ridicule that I get for these jokes. So anyway, listen, everybody, thank you so much for watching for us, which has been a special show talking about 9/11. So, Frank, I'm going to ask you for your final thoughts before we throw it to Val.
Just honor our veterans and our first responders every day, not just on Veterans Day or Memorial Day, on 9/11. Remember, every time you see them, that you're being able to do what you do because of everything that they did.
Amen. John, since you are military as well, do you want to give a final thought on something like this?
I'm almost afraid to.
Oh,
Typical Marine.
Right on. The prevalent attitude in this country today is that we really need to change. Is to hooray for me and to hell with you. That's what we need to change.
You know what? That's a great sentence. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Perfectly
All right,
said.
Governor Val, give your final thoughts before we say goodbye.
As my tagline is in most of my emails, my personal emails, freedom isn't free. And I am so thankful that we have the opportunity to have these conversations in many countries. This conversation is allowed. I want to thank you all for being a part of us. And Frank, thank you for helping us put this on the forefront of everybody's agenda. Never forget.
All right. Very simple. Never forget. All right. With that, couple programming notes. Thoughts Count Anywhere tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 11. And then 12 to 1, some guy named Aaron Phillips. Aaron Zauer has Rick Upchurch, former Denver Bronco wide receiver, will be joining me and co-host of the roundtable. But we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about all of his philanthropic work that he has done not only here in Las Vegas, but around the country to help organizations. So make sure you join us tomorrow. All right. With that, thank everybody for watching. We appreciate your time. Remember 9/11 and however you choose to, but make it happen every day. Make every day a 9/11 day to never forget. Thank you for watching. As always, be kind to everybody. Why? We're all we have. See you next time right here on Kiwanis Connects. Feel free to dance as we go out.